Hello everybody and welcome to this panel discussion. My name is Serica. I am the director of the Galway Theatre Festival, and I'm delighted to be joined by the artists who comprise InterAction, which is a project presented by Galway Theatre Festival in conjunction with Galway 2020. And this project was conceived as a laboratory for development, focusing on participatory, immersive theatre and interactive digital technology. So we have some really exciting projects coming up, and we are going to hear from each of the artists today as to what their project is and where it came from. So we're going to start with Tyra J Burke, whose project is called Genre.
Hello, how's it going? So I guess to begin with, just a little bit about myself. So my name is Tyra J Burke. I'm currently studying animation and game design here in Galway, and my experience has always been trying to find immersion. That's one of the interests that I have. So once this project came about, that was kind of the main draw for me, is that there was a focus on immersion and the viewer, the players being involved, which is a huge part of the work I've been trying to develop. So for me, I've always had an interest in virtual reality. In the last 2 years, I've had some great opportunities to try developing that. And that was the original idea I had pitched for Genre, which was going to be a VR-based piece that was participatory. It was one-on-one, you had actors, and it was kind of using the senses as immersion. And I was always trying to deal with the questions of how we consume media and how can you achieve player immersion. Those are the questions I wanted to deal with. And of course, this has changed. My project has had to adapt with everything going on at the moment, but it did allow me to look at it from a new perspective, which I'm grateful for. So this is rework. So it's still genre, it's dealing with those same two topics, but instead we're using social media and the internet as a platform to try convey those. So I don't want to give too much away of the story, and also the work I've been trying to develop, it's always been trying to explore mechanics more than the story itself, and how the mechanic can kind of fuel the story, which obviously you still need a story, but I didn't want that to be the main point. So I guess for me, using something we're so familiar with, such as social media and the internet, that was very different to something like VR, which is new and exciting, and it's just, it kind of in itself is impressive, whereas we're used to just siphoning through data and information on our phones all day, which can seem less impressive. So it's trying to take just the ordinary out of it, I guess, and realizing that there's always a story, and we're missing stories every day when we're just scrolling through our feeds. And that's kind of what genre is dealing with in this new form. So I guess for me, just on a personal level, I've been incorporating some old social media posts I had when I was younger. Like, I've been on Facebook since I was 12, which is over half my life now, which is just surreal. And I think I hold a lot of shame in posts I made when I was younger, which is just something, it doesn't go away, you know, it's there on the internet. So I've been trying to use this project and this adaptation to kind of embrace that. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say of it before it goes out, I guess. And enjoy it. It is scratch level, it's experimental, but it's been good to make and work through.
Great, thanks very much, Tara. It sounds really exciting. I understand that feeling of looking back at your old Facebook posts and thinking, oh my God, why did I say that? But yeah, that sounds exciting, and a great way to adapt something that kind of really needs an audience to a digital platform. So that sounds really exciting. I think we'll move on now to Esther. If you'd like to give us an insight into your project, please.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Esther, and I'm a theater maker and curator and researcher, currently living in Brussels. And about me, I have been sort of looking at different forms of participatory theater for the last 7 years. And also ended up in Brussels because of this, researching instructions that led me to research borders and politics of being together and play. So that's kind of my background, or how I got to InterAction. And then my project is called Speak Like No One in Particular, which is basically about my voice, and me having lost my voice, me also being silenced in a public situation, and then it triggered me to start to think about listening and speaking as elements of integration, or the ways in which a voice changes when it crosses borders, how it gets entangled, or what are the things that shifted. And then for the last weeks, I have been basically explaining what I'm doing and thinking about my own voice, which has been interesting in the situation where I've been also all by myself. And then the work is something for Zoom as a result, and radio. So these are technologies that Zoom is the technology we now use to be together. And the radio is something we have been using to reach far away for a very long time. So these are not exciting new technologies, but they have been very interesting to play with the politics that emerge from what I'm trying to talk about, and to kind of make them tangible and kind of be able to go deeper into them. And it is a scratch version, so I'm trying out things about reading together and speaking out and speaking in, and we will see how it all cooks when I have a participatory audience, which for me is very exciting and scary in this Zoom world. But I hope you can come and join and listen and participate.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Esther. I think, yeah, it's amazing to think that in such a short space of time, our ways of connecting and speaking to each other have changed so dramatically. So yeah, it sounds like a really great project. We'll move on now to Mairead Ní Chrónaín, I think, who is one of the originators of this project. And Mairead can tell us a little bit about her project as part of InterAction.
Hello. As Sorka said, my name is Mairead Ní Chrónaín. I'm a theatre maker and a researcher, and I make theatre in lots of different ways, but I suppose one of the things that I'm very interested in through my PhD research was in interactive and immersive forms, and in particular how interactive technologies are interacting with the body. So I found it really interesting to look at things like jogging apps, or things like heart monitor, or kind of sports kind of technologies that are starting to kind of integrate deeper and deeper underneath our skin, and starting to talk to us about how our bodies are working. And I'm really interested in that conversation that we're having with the data around what our bodies are, and also how that conversation is framed by the people who create apps, or by the concept of design. And I think theatre has a really interesting chance to kind of make an intervention into that conversation, which at the moment is very driven by kind of productivity and results and quantification and calculation. And I think theatre has an opportunity to really ask a question: is that really our experience of the body? Is our experience of the body really can it be boiled down to, you know, steps per minute, or distance traveled, or calories burnt, or, you know, heartbeats per minute? Or is there something else going on at every moment when we're experiencing our body, both internally and in conversation with the environment around it? So that's kind of the starting kind of investigatory point of the project. And the project is called Slow Down, You Move Too Fast. And it's an interactive piece for one person. You do it as you go out walking. And this again is a scratch project. So what people will experience is kind of one aspect of a wider project that I'm kind of building up to. So the project kind of has two aspects. One is kind of, I suppose, like Tara was talking about, the mechanics and to a certain extent the content. So the mechanics, I'm really interested in how these kind of art forms because they ask the audience to participate and kind of become the performer, and therefore they're kind of embodying the actions. So what happens when the actions of the piece are embodied in your own body and you start to actually translate that information into the world by your actions? So the part that I'll be asking people to kind of try out as part of this scratch will be an MP3 track that takes them on a walk and asks them to walk in certain ways and have an experience by doing that. Don't really want to say anything more. I don't want to prescribe kind of what that experience might be. And then the other aspect, which I'll be touching on a little bit in the workshop that I'm doing, which I think could be more properly called a demonstration and kind of meandering talk. That's what it's like in my head at the moment anyway. We'll be looking at kind of hopefully what this project will build to, which will be an experience that uses interactive technologies. So technologies that read what your body is doing in the moment and translate that into data. And then by doing that, ask the media to perform in a certain way. So ideally, if you're walking slowly, the media slows down, or if you walk fast, the media changes. If you breathe in a certain way, the media changes. So it's kind of responsive, interactive design. And so the technology that I'm looking at, this is the first time that I've gotten to actually play with those technologies, because I've experienced a good few kind of apps and different types of participatory artworks that use these technologies. But one of my goals was to kind of learn a little bit of those skills myself and learn at least enough to understand as an artist how to approach them and how not to let them dictate, how not to let the technology dictate what it is I want to do as an artist, which I think is one of the problems that maybe we have with technology sometimes, is that there are certain pathways that are very easy to go down with technology because technology is built in a certain way. And sometimes as an artist, you kind of have to actively avoid those pathways and take another pathway. And that can be difficult to do if you don't understand how the technology works. So I've been really lucky through this project to start kind of messing around a little bit with those interactive technologies and translate that into a kind of a concept of how your body might interact with objects around you. And so in the demonstration, I'll be talking a little bit about that particular aspect of the project and a little bit about kind of what it reveals about data and about how we create with data.
That sounds really great, Mairead. So am I right in saying that the MP3 track you can take that, you could be anywhere in the world to participate in the project, and it doesn't matter where you are. You can walk in your house, or you could walk out in the Phoenix Park or wherever you happen to be.
Yeah, ideally you'll walk outside.
Great.
Yeah, so I should put that in the instructions. And ideally you'll be somewhere where you can walk safely for 15 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that might be, something that people might want to think about. There'll be a few little kind of instructions on the site once people kind of sign up to download the MP3. They'll get a few instructions that kind of hopefully will be helpful in terms of how to use the MP3. And obviously the whole idea with the Scratch project is to gather as much feedback about people's experience of it as possible. So I'll be asking people to do a feedback form and also hopefully hosting a Zoom kind of feedback chat as well.
Yeah, cool. Looking forward to it. So we're going to move now to John Rogers, who is the flagship artist for the InterAction project, and who will hopefully be doing a physical piece, an in-person experience. But for now, John, if you could tell us all about your project In the Mouth of Fire and what it will look like for the next 2 weeks in digital format.
Okay, well, thanks, Circa. The original plan, of course, was that I was going to perform a piece called The Stars in Winter in November in front of an audience. And the best way to describe that right now is that it's simply postponed until we can get an audience back into a space. And then for Galway Theatre Festival, I was to perform a sort of what I was thinking of as a prelude or almost a trailer to that piece. And that's the piece that I'm now doing online at the end of the month on Friday the 29th at 8 p.m. on YouTube Live assuming the internet behaves. So what I'm doing is the idea of the overall piece, the Stars in Winter, is a piece that was to be performed by me and an artificial intelligent presence in the form of an avatar. And the idea for the Mouth of Fire, which is a kind of a direct translation of Bealtaine, which is the month we're in, Bealtaine. The Mouth of Fire was that we would introduce these two personas, or two characters, one performed by me and the other performed by this digital avatar. And that's what I'm working on with my collaborator, a digital artist in Berlin called Meredith Thomas. And it is going to be a short performance live to camera, where my character summons this artificial intelligence via a ritual that I will be designing, which will speak to Roman and Greek mythology, but also Irish mythology, which has an overarching logic to the piece, but I'm not going to get into now. And that this ritual summons this AI, almost like you'd summon a muse or summon an ancient deity. And if we get it right, the digital avatar will be represented in a sort of an augmented reality presence that you will see as you watch this on your laptop, on your smart TV, on your phone, wherever you're watching the video. And then I will interact a scene with this presence. It's a Scratch project as well. I'm taking advantage of the challenges that are facing us all, in that I can't have an audience present. So one of the rare advantages of that is that I can have this augmented reality persona present with me in a space that is easier to do it this way than it would be, let's say, if I was doing it on a stage in front of a live audience. The challenge for me is to create a performance that the audience buys. So the two questions I'm trying to answer with this piece of work is, first, what sort of a presence can I convey across the medium of a YouTube live video? It's not going to be the same as if I'm physically present with an audience. So can I somehow bridge that gap with my performance that makes the piece engaging? I'm hoping that the fact that it'll be live and that the audience will know it's live, and the audience will know, probably, or many of them will know, the amount of technology that's been used to create it will give it a sort of an importance or something that has validity. And the other question I'm trying to answer is, can we create a digital presence that is also credible and believable and becomes a character in its own right? So to do that, we're getting right down into the very bones of what makes a good performance, either human or digital, and trying to build it up from there. So so that's it. And then that's on Friday the 29th of May. And then the next day, Meredith and I, again, internet willing, are going to do a live Zoom or something like that, where we will talk about how we set about creating what we did, the challenges we faced, and where we intend to take it next. And there will also be a online form, feedback form that people will be able to fill in, the audience will be able to fill in after they've seen the performance. So that's it.
Great, thank you very much, John. I'm struck listening to everybody how front and center the audience will be in terms of helping to kind of develop the future of all these pieces, which is a really great experience as an audience member, to be able to participate so directly in the creation of art which is all very new, and exploring things like summoning AI deities. So it's a really exciting prospect. And now for something completely different, we'll move to Pádraig Conway, whose piece is called Victory Over the Sun. So Pork, if you'd like to give us an introduction to your piece, please.
Hello, how are you? Okay, well, I come from a visual arts background, printmaking, and I arrived at this piece of operatic work by the Russian avant-garde, first performed in St. Petersburg in 1913 through the work of Kazimir Malevich, because I was interested in non-objective art at the time, and I figured there was some way of putting a contemporary slant on the research I was doing into megalithic art. So from that, it kind of evolved that I was collating the research over the last maybe 10 years, and that eventually kind of developed into my interest in vectors and animation, and let's say then the likes the work of Eliziski, which was another development of the work later. So I have been taking it from essentially the standpoint of research into modernist aesthetics and avant-garde theatre, and I've kind of transferred that research into a kind of a interface of 3D design and animation, and investigating the actual original drawings, costumes, and kind of developing the kind of philosophical approach that artists like Eliziski saw in the work, the potential there to develop it into puppetry and bring it into essentially maybe a 2D, 3D environment. So what I will be doing is essentially, because I'm not an aficionado, or I'm not a hugely brilliant animator at this stage, but I am very much engaged in the learning process. So and there's great kind of potential there to play and discover things within the interface, within the technology, that kind of realizes a certain sort of visual aesthetic. And I think it kind of lends itself to the very undeveloped zone, kind of, what would you call it, the early avant-garde work, which was kind of pushing for something new and looking for something in technology. So what I hope to do is present kind of nuts and bolts of how I approach it and engage with the technology. And I'm kind of at a stage now where I've got, because I've researched it, and seen other performances of it, I'm very much involved in the language and the kind of musicality of the original language, and how that translates, and what's lost in translation, and what actually can be kept in the translation. And at the moment, I'm kind of almost doing a collage of stuff that I'm plagiarizing from the internet in terms of other actors and other opera singers and everything. So I think it'll come together as sort of a collage. And that will probably be as much as it will be in scratch context. But once I get the nuts and bolts there, it has the potential to be brought into maybe a real theatrical environment where it can be incorporated with real actors, maybe where they can simulate movements with new technologies, where they can actually animate the figures that you create. And also it has the ability to kind of be easily transferred into game engines using Unity software, where people can actually walk in the set itself, or the designed set, and discover where they want to be or decide where they want to be in that environment at particular stages. So we'll see how that goes. That's still a way off. But at the minute, it's fun for me, and I think there might be some interesting results. And I'll keep. That's where I'm at the minute. So
that's great. Thank you very much, Paul. It's amazing how adaptable it sounds in terms of going anything from a live theatre performance with live actors, as you say, all the way through to gaming worlds and becoming part of the gaming world yourself. So it sounds like really kind of exciting work that has a lot of transferable possibilities, which is great. So we're going to now, last but by no means least, move to Mohalon. So Phelim, if you could give us an introduction to your project, and if you could also introduce Lundell and Seitel, the Swedish group who are going to be doing a project as part of this InterAction 2 weeks as well, that would be great.
Cool. Hey everybody, how's it going? Yeah, my name is Phelim Mohalon, and I'll be, I guess, I'm developing a work called Memory Lies, which as well has been adapted to the modern world we find ourselves in. So the piece is, I guess, looking at values, and is primarily a headset piece to be experienced in your home. And yeah, I suppose in a way it was I guess to respond a little bit to what's going on at the moment, and to look at maybe what way our values are and what way they could be in the future. And I suppose that to use the device of someone time traveling or traveling through their memories to look at it. So that's the kind of loose concept of how, if maybe, in this realm of a digital future, maybe how maybe these things can help us travel into certain parts of our mind or certain parts of history, and hopefully to kind of maybe throw a light on the time that we're in now. So yeah, it's very much in progress, and yeah, but I'm looking at the I guess with everyone is kind of looking at a similar thing in different ways of like the way or the interface into what we're doing, and so yeah, a lot of it is working with kind of website development and maybe working with artists through the challenges of not being able to physically be with them, but also kind of how we face that challenge and actually adapt a little bit, which is what I guess theatre people have always been quite good at doing. So nothing like a pandemic to put that challenge even more so into the thing. So yeah, that's the work. It's going to be presented as a short piece, 15 minutes or so, and I hope, and that'll be available next week through a link. And I hope that people can sit and experience it, and that I can take feedback from it to develop the piece even further and maybe bring a completely different direction to it. But definitely thankful for the allowance and the chance to just even to look at an idea and to kind of look into it a bit more. So, and then another side of this, I guess, is with London Seitel, which I've been kind of involved with the InterAction project since the beginning of the conception of the idea of InterAction. They're kind of multidisciplinary artists that have exhibited all over the world, and they work a lot with various technologies such as VR and a lot of binaural recordings and technology, and they use it in really interesting ways, even maybe before the pandemic, and in a way that all of ourselves have also been looking at art using technology to enhance human experience. And so they've been really, really great in putting an app that they have launched already, and is available. And I'll be doing a little discussion with them about their process of art making. And we'll be able to download and try out the app, which works for couples in isolation. So it's really, really, really interesting stuff there as well.
That's great. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for that kind of introduction to all of your projects. I think we have a really exciting 2 weeks ahead of us in terms of all of the work that we'll be able to experience. And I'm delighted that the nature of the project means that it has been adaptable to a fully digital presentation. You've all put so much work into this over so many years and months of thought, and it's great that this can still be presented in some way. Maybe not the way it had been initially envisaged, but nonetheless, it's really exciting. I wish you the best of luck with it all. I'm signing up to everything. So you will have you'll see my face a lot over the next 2 weeks. Yeah, have a good weekend and stay safe.